Welcome to The Hero Maker. In this series, we follow Richard's appearances on other shows as he talks about how to grow, play, think, and live like a hero. Join him as he discusses thoughts, principles, and life lessons, all essential for anyone building their heroic brand. All that and more, only on The Hero Maker.
So why don't we get to know who you are? What made you want to do this? I mean, this is very in-depth with the colors and the masterminds and the US this and the font and the roboto. So who are you? Like, what made you want to do this? You could have been anything you wanted in the world, a trapeze, a jumper, anything. Circus animal. So what made you want to do this?
So it goes back to my first interaction with business was from my dad. He came home one day from work. He was not an entrepreneur. He was a high-level scientist and worked on some programs that you actually probably heard of. The space program where they put the lasers up in space for, Star Wars. Yeah, he worked on the Star Wars program. He worked on the Voyager spacecraft that is still sending data back. So he worked on some pretty cool stuff growing up. So he was doing cool work. But he came home one day. I was about 9 or 10 years old, and he put the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book in my hand and said, "Hey, I got a friend of mine at work. Thought you might enjoy this." We brought it home and gave it to me. And I spent every night that week reading that book, and I read it probably 4 times in a week. And I sort of, from that point, I was already a weird kid, but now I had firepower behind my weirdness, if that makes sense. And I spent the rest of my childhood sort of being obsessed with business and marketing and the persuasive selling psychology, right? And one of the things that I've always loved, and I still love, my sort of online handle for everything is The Alchemist, or AKATheAlchemist. So I've always thought that modern marketing is sort of like alchemy of old, right? If you learn to master marketing, you can learn to turn words into gold. And that's always fascinated me because it's just amazing to me that if you string the right words together in the right way for the right people, you can get them to literally change their lives, right? And so that manifested itself in a number of ways in my life. When I was 13, I started my first business. And I convinced my dad to give me a loan for $50 and went and also drive me to the big box store because I couldn't drive. And I bought candy, a bunch of the big candies that you couldn't get on campus, and brought them to school. And the proverbial guy in New York Street who's showing you his wares under the trench coat, I had my candy in the backpack and was selling it for 3 or 4x markup what I bought it for, and made a grand total of maybe about $1,000 in 6 weeks or so selling candy wholesale or retail on campus. Before I had I tell people my first government shutdown because the powers that be, right, on our government-funded public schools told me that I was not capable of selling on campus without a business license, and because I was 13, I couldn't have a business license. So it's shut down. So I tell people I had my first government shutdown at 13. But anyways, that was my first business. And I tried a number of things trying to get businesses going before I was 18 and couldn't. But I actually ended up going to Bible college and got a degree in preaching. And part of the reason I got a degree in preaching is the same sort of mentality that it amazes me that you can use words to change people's lives. So I learned preaching, learned a lot about schooling and education, how you actually teach people, and specifically persuasive education, because that's pretty much what preaching is. It's persuasive education. And paid my way through college as a self-employed photographer and did wedding photography and portrait photography for students and families on campus and in the community. And after college, it was my last semester of college, I actually dropped out to start a marketing and branding business, and started working with local businesses because I saw the need for it, that there was people who didn't understand how to build and develop a brand and how to teach and educate their clients and customers. It's something that I've been fascinated with for years. And I started that first business and ran that for, from 2007 to 2012 or so. And I was doing really great work for my clients. I was not doing great work for myself, however, because I didn't know how to price things well, and I didn't have a lot of confidence in my skills at that time. So I actually ended up having to shut that business down. And I took a I spent about 4 weeks and managed to get myself a C-level marketing director position for a big solar company, and was put in charge of a $25,000 a month marketing budget that I spent the next 15 months. We 10x'd their lead flow and did an 8,000 page SEO campaign and made them one of the largest regional developers of solar in Southern California, which was super cool. And took all of those skills and everything that I learned in that corporate career and transitioned back into my my education business, and took on my first client after that in 2015 with a newfound respect for both my skills and what I was actually worth, and started charging what I was worth. And my first couple of clients, I had a client that we brought from $0 to $40,000 a month in Amazon sales. I had another client we brought from $1,200 a month in course sales to over $250,000 their first year. And another client that we did $250,000 in 6 weeks in sales of their course and program, stuff like that. And it's just sort of all been, that was my start in 2015, getting this business up and running where it is. And I've spent the last I don't know however long that is, 5 years now, building and developing systems around how you build courses and how you build branding and how you actually build a market and masterminds for online education space. And like I said, we just recently started transitioning into helping clients with their podcasts as a way to build and develop audience on the that you can actually use to drive sales to those things. And that's where the birth of the Push Button Podcast service came, because I realized most of my clients, you might tell them, for years and years and years that they should start a podcast and they should do the thing, but there's a lot of work that goes into actually developing a podcast. So most of them didn't do it. So my question was, how can I make it as easy as possible for them to create and develop a podcast and develop the audience that goes along with it? And the solution was make it so they can just show up and deliver their expertise, and we'll do everything else for them. And that's how the Push Button Podcast service was born.
If you want to hear the rest of this discussion, please check out the link to the full episode in the description below.